Good morning, everybody. Let's start with the dollar. So on the daily, the dollar is playing out very nicely with the structure it's been laying lately. So we took the buy side here, and a few live streams ago I talked about highlighting this breaker structure because I wanted to journal how it would react around it, because I don't have a lot of experience journaling or with showing the breaker and the dollar. So I wanted to see how it would behave. If you notice, you came down and we touched it beautifully and just bounced, just barely wicked into it. Came back up, bounced off this daily fair value gap, came up through this daily fair value gap that's coming all the way from over here, closed above this volume imbalance, and now you can see the last two candles, Friday and today, we are above the volume imbalance but wicking down. It looks like it wants this buy side liquidity, especially if the bodies of these candles continue to respect this volume imbalance. So I'm expecting higher prices on dollar and downside on indices. So let's start with ES. So if you go to the weekly, you can see what happened in this price swing was we came up and we ticked right into this weekly fair value gap. It came down, we consolidated inside this BISI, which has been what we've been talking about for a while now. Kind of came up, closed above it, but wasn't able to get anywhere further than this high. It seemed like it really just wanted to come into a little bit of a deeper discount. We do have this daily fair value gap right here. The body closed above it, but we had a sharp rejection down, which came down through this SIBI that we were also looking at. And now we're at the bottom end of this big daily BISI candle. So I think our targets for today, downside is looking probable. Our targets are going to be this daily fair value gap here for first. If we get below this, it'll probably be the consequent encroachment of this wick right here / this volume imbalance. So let me just map that out. We have 14, 468, 75, 44, 68, up one tick. Consequent encroachment. And I'm just going to leave that like that for now. Going down to the 4 hour. So the 4 hour candles, Friday afternoon, big down close, big down close. We opened up today, kind of retraced into this 4 hour. It makes even more sense if you go down to the 1 hour, where you can see we have this 1 hour fair value gap here, which also lines up with this hourly change in the state of delivery. So this order block here, you can see the candles came up, ticked into this hourly fair value gap, and kind of rolled over. If you notice this new week opening gap, so this is the new week opening gap that was created yesterday. It's very, very small. It's 2 ticks. So I've heard ICT say even before fair value gaps this small, he might not put them on his chart. I put it on here just in case. As you can see right here, we kind of came down and wicked right to it. So I like to have as much on my chart. It's a balance, but more context gives you more context or more on your chart can give you more context into what price is doing. So we came up on the hourly, rolled into this Didn't get anywhere close to consequent encroachment, which is nice. Came back down in the London session and fell aggressively more. Going into the open, so we're now below the new week opening gap. We are also below this daily BISI low. Remember, that's the big white candle on the daily. So we're below both of these levels. That blue box was a 5-minute candle. You can see where we weren't able to get up to consequent encroachment of that. So this is the level I'm kind of watching going into the open. I could see two scenarios playing out for the open, just depending on how bullish we are. I don't think, so we have FOMC on Wednesday. So just be aware of that. That will affect price action into the early morning or into the earlier side of the week. Two scenarios I could see playing out on the 15-minute is if we could get like an open that would come up, and these are kind of some nice equal highs. I could see the 15-minute taken if that was to happen. So there's a scenario where it come up, take these highs before it wants to get lower into this. There's another scenario if we are really bullish where we don't even close above this BISI low or the new week opening gap. I would like that scenario a lot more. I'd feel a lot more comfortable going short if we never even retrace up above these and this fair value gap is kind of our last line of defense, and that holds. So that's as far as I'm gonna go on ES right now. We'll break down NASDAQ. I do like the look of ES a little better. ICT this morning on Twitter was calling out NASDAQ levels. On the NASDAQ, the structure is looking very similar to ES, so we're closing to the bottom of this BISI, buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency, fair value gap. His levels he called out was he was targeting the low and then 15,300, which is the body low of this BISI, which is also the start of a little volume imbalance right here. So I believe that's why he called out the 1530 right after the BISI low. I go down to the 4-hour. 4-hour has the same structure as ES. As on Friday, we have the two large down close. We are currently below. So the new week opening gap on NASDAQ was even smaller. I think it was one tick. So this is it right here. It's just a line. Going down to the 1 hour. So we have this hourly fair value gap inside of the 4-hour, similar to ES. We have the change in the state of delivery with the that fair value or that order block. You can see that there was a little bit of a deeper retracement, but the bodies of the candles still respected this hourly. So we did wick above it, which on ES we did not get above that, but the bodies are what tell the story. Remember that. So we came down, and now it's a similar story. I'm highlighting this 15-minute fair value gap because it seems like we're respecting consequent encroachment of it pretty nicely with these candle bodies, and I can see it being the same narrative as ES. So we could open and kind of get up into this 15-minute buy side liquidity before possibly sending it lower, or we could just open and completely respect this 15-minute gap and then send it lower. If we're talking about lower prices, if we do get below these two levels, because they're not too far away, I would go back to the daily, and then I'd start mapping out PD arrays on the daily. So I highlighted it on ES, but there's that volume gap, and then the next thing I'd probably highlight is consequent encroachment of this wick. Then I'd probably go to the bottom of the wick because that's a fair value gap. We'll wait until we get there. Let's just observe the opening. I think I'm probably gonna trade ES this morning. I like how we're below these two levels. Whereas if you look back on the NASDAQ, we haven't closed below that daily BISI. So I like ES just because in the chance it does stay below these two levels, that's really reassuring to me in terms of monitoring price. And because I feel like we had a little more of a retracement than NASDAQ did. But we're going to go to the 3-pane view. So the red lines denote our session. We have the opening range right here. And yeah, so we'll watch. Our main concern is how we treat this 5-minute area going into the open. Something I really wish that TradingView did was, like, when you have these small little windows, when you like import them in here, I wish it would carry over all the drawings you had on like the dollar. Like I had that dollar all marked up, but you wouldn't see it in here. Treats them as like two different things. That'd be nice to see. This yellow line is also the dollar on the 1-minute chart. I like to watch it to map out highs and lows. So as you can see, we have this large run up. The dollar was dropping at the same time. So we have FOMC on Wednesday. What that usually means is ICT suggests that we stop trading Wednesday morning. And I think even price action can sometimes get a little stale with the news events. It's rough because it feels like we have a news event almost every week that has us saying price action is going to be bad because of it, but what can you do? I noticed like last week, right before CPI, so I've only had 2 losing days on this channel so far, and they were the 2 days right before CPI where like I went into those sessions being like, we probably shouldn't be trading today. Okay, so on the 5-minute, I like how we wicked above this high, had a strong body close. We're coming down low. If we take out this low with some force, I might look to use the 2022 entry model. So we had a buy side liquidity taken on the 5-minute. It's also a swing high on the 15-minute, inside of a 15-minute SIBI fair value gap. It would just depend on how aggressively price comes down, because that's usually how you can gauge how badly it wants to attack liquidity. So I think it would be attacking this sell side and going for this daily fair value gap level down here. I'm also gonna open up NQ on the bottom here. Just make sure. So if you notice, we have an SMT divergence already on right here. That was a higher high made on ES. That wasn't made on NASDAQ. All the way to the bottom. Whoa. Yeah, you can see it on the 5-minute too. So right now, I will watch how price treats this level. You can see we kind of came down below some lows and then aggressively came up, taking this swing high, and then we came back down into it. I'd want, if we wanted to see downside, I'd want to see price disregard this fair value gaps levels. And also be watching the dollar. So the dollar here, if this is our final swing high on ES, I'd also want this to be the low on the dollar that starts some higher highs and lower lows. I like that. Just all the way to the bottom of it. It's also a 5-minute level, so. Okay, so the dollar looks like it's about to make a lower low. Notice this candle. So we have this good sized candle down. This candle is coming up right to the top of the bottom of this candle. So we want to see if that acts like an immediate rebalance, if it just completely rejects it. And a little gem that ICT dropped, this is a new piece of information earlier last week, is if you see an immediate rebalance and in that candle that does it, or the next candle, it doesn't just drop, then it wasn't an immediate rebalance and will either consolidate or reverse. So I'm interested to see this play out live, this theory. So according to that piece of information he said, we should reject. You have a higher high, dollar's going up. Okay, that makes sense. I like that. As you can see, the dollar at the same time is also pushing up. Okay, so we just wicked down into this fair value gap. I'm watching the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ just took out that swing high. On this hourly candle, we wicked into a fair value gap. I like that for downside narrative. I want to see a stay below this swing high, which NASDAQ is pushing, but I want to see a stay below that swing high on ES because that was a higher high for ES versus NASDAQ. So that was like, whenever that happens, and we're thinking, okay, downside price action, the narrative is that took liquidity. So it doesn't want to go back above it because it already took the liquidity. NASDAQ came above these two swing highs, hopefully to send it lower as well. Dollar is still going up. You can see right here the yellow line. This wick right here is really not liking this wick. And our bodies, notice how our bodies are respecting this 1 minute fair value gap. Okay, close below that. That's looking good. Dollar still going higher. NASDAQ is going higher though. So we're seeing a little bit of almost like a decoupling. NASDAQ, you can see right here, this is the 1 minute on NASDAQ. It's just really pushing up, whereas ES isn't. Probably going to wait out and just watch these opening ranges. Just wait for a little more information. Okay, so I'll be watching the 15 and 5 minute now that we're starting to get towards the top end of this gap, just because it seems like we might be wanting to go higher for some more liquidity, like I outlined in the two situations this morning. So I'll be looking to see if we want to kind of toy around and with these equal highs or this hourly fair value gap before going lower. It could very well just wait until the PM session to head down there. I won't give up on that downside price action until we close above this new week opening gap though. If we do close above this new week opening gap and then we send it lower in the AM session at the same time, that means my read on price this morning isn't on point as I want it to be, and I'll probably just have to be an observer. But we do have the dollar going up still. So I'm not trying to switch the narrative and try and grab some longs at the moment. If we had a drop in dollar, I'd probably switch my narrative side, but okay, so you see this candle came up, the wick touched the top of the new wick opening gap perfectly. Then we came down, rejected it. Now we're coming up above it. Dollar looks like it's making a swing high. So dollar could come back down a little bit. We're just being patient. A habit that I've formed that I also like is kind of before the 9:30 open is speaking out loud like the two scenarios and like how I think price will behave. And then what you do is when the open does come, you see how is it respecting all these. That's why it's really important to like do your TA before the market opens, because you want to see how when we do open, how is price respecting all these levels that you called out, because these levels are going to be what you use to like guess, I mean not guess, but predict the direction. And then on the days when your levels, it is respecting your levels and following your narrative, that's when you'll notice the trades you enter are higher probability. So dollar is pushing up again. I like how our bodies are staying under the top of this new week opening gap. I would even allow it to like close above this new week opening gap on the 1 minute if it was to mean that it was just a wick on the 5 minute. See, when at one point this candle was all the way up here and you're like, oh, it's 100% going to close above this new week opening gap. And then it wicked all the way down. We're doing it again, but okay, so I am expecting us now to probably come a little higher before sending it lower. We still have a decent amount of time before our 10 a.m. window, so we'll have a lot more candlesticks and information to go off of by the time 10 o'clock comes around. So like I said, I would allow it. It would be permissible for like some 1 minute closes above this new week opening gap if it meant a wick on the 5 minute. And I really like how this body, I mean, I don't like it for downside, but this body did respect the top of this fair value gap. It's just what things I look for. So on the 15 minute, we came up. Looks like we wicked right into this up close candle. Watch the dollar. Okay, the dollar looks like it's dropping pretty hard after this. Looks like this was a swing high. Okay, so we came back down and we closed right on the top of this fair value gap level. I'm going to take this SMT off the chart. So again, one of the reasons why I wanted to trade ES this morning over NASDAQ was if we go to NASDAQ and look at it, that's XRP. If we go to NASDAQ and look at it, we were above the bottom of this daily BISI. So technically anything, looking at the 15-minute, anything going up is still in that BISI. So like we could retrace a lot more, whereas on ES, I liked the narrative of if we start, I want to stay below these levels for downside price action. It's like giving myself like a line in the sand where it's like, if we do this, then I will not be taking shorts. It's kind of like drawing out your own line in the sand to really narrow down the probability of what's happening. But if you can look on NASDAQ, we came up above the London session, and we actually just took that London liquidity, which is something I outlined pre-market. And since NASDAQ runs a little more than ES, NASDAQ can do that and not have ES do it, and them still be telling the same story. So the dollar's going up. We couldn't get a 5-minute close above this new week opening gap. We're kind of coming down hard. I'm going to watch and see, are we treating this 5-minute like an inversion or not? Because we did get that slight close. So this doji looking candle, I would allow that to be considered a close above the fair value gap. And then you can see we opened above it. So now I want to see, are we coming down and treating this like an inversion, or are we just going to come straight through it? If we come straight through it, I'd be looking to enter trades for the downside, targeting this. And it looks like we're getting kind of heavy. I like that. I want to see us close below these swing lows right here. I want to see us close, not wick. The dollar still going up. Okay, so it looks like there's a good chance that this is going to form a fair value gap. Off of this, I would enter on a retracement in here. So like I would sell too. I'm going to wait for it to print though. And if we do, what I'll do is I will watch it as a fair value gap. Okay, so we're in 2 right there. Stop loss, put it at the top of this candle. I want to see, now I'm watching the dollar, so I want to see the dollar continue to make higher highs. I don't like how it's kind of giving this round in action right there. Let's see how this candle treats these fair value gap levels. So we have consequent encroachment. Okay, so we came up, touched consequent encroachment with the wick. Our body still closed in the lower quarter of this fair value gap. I'm watching the dollar again. There's been a few times this morning where the dollar kind of looked like it was going to turn. Like right here, I made this point, came down pretty hard. Now it's curling and it's coming down hard, which I don't like that, but there's been a few times where it made us think it's going to go lower. It would be a bummer if that final time where it actually does it is where we're in the trade. But let's see. I want to see us take this low. I really want to see us take this low because if we start to push up again, I'd be nervous that it came lower below here just to take liquidity. We're also playing around with this fair value gap. We closed below it twice, but I just want to see our bodies before I'm like, okay, we're definitely in this, get below this. Okay, it's looking good on our end. 5 handles for the first low-hanging fruit objective is buy one back there. And this whole time, you can see on the 15-minute, these candle bodies are respecting, the bodies are respecting consequent encroachment of this 15-minute fair value gap. Right there. So that's good to see. That right there, I'll wait to say that. I'll bite my tongue until we hit our first profit target. Again, I want to see us take this low. If we take this low, we'll definitely be heading towards the buy stop. Okay, so the dollar came down, it looked like it bounced, and now the dollar's going lower. So we'll really have to pay attention to how we treat these two fair value gaps, because with a dropping dollar, I don't like to be short. Our bodies, though, if you notice, our bodies are respecting this fair value gap well. I did want to see, what I was hoping to see was, so this candle got really heavy, and I wanted to see after we retraced to get heavy again. That's why I was really waiting for this heaviness. Okay, so this candle closed below our level, below our fair value gap. Okay, we have the dollar. Looks like it made a swing low right there. I want to see it come up for these highs and continue some bullish structure. Another reason why I really want to take this low, I'm watching this low specifically, is if you look on the 5-minute, this low was right, it came down below these equal lows, and then that's kind of where you could argue, if you were arguing the bullish case, this would be the start of a bullish price run. So you wouldn't want to see it get below that. Longs, anyone who's long wouldn't want to see it get below that. Okay, so we have the dollar coming up. It's targeting these swing highs. We also have decent size retracement on ES. It is re-entering into this 5-minute, so it could be just pulling back to enter into this 5-minute SIBI, sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency candle. If it just kind of comes up in wicks, comes lower. Okay, so we have the dollar going above these swing highs. I would really want to see, now that we on the 5-minute came in to that fair value gap, on the 1-minute I'd want us start to turn over to downside. And you know, I'm going to put this right above this 3rd candle. It's the first candle that started this fair value gap. Just a 1 tick difference. Okay, so the dollar came above those highs. Looks like we're possibly about to close above this 1-minute fair value gap, which I don't like. So this was technically our 2022 model. This is what we were aiming for this downside. So we just got stopped out. As long as we stay below this swing low, I think we can still hit this downside. It might be waiting for 10 a.m. to do that. If we do see that come, if we do see another opening to the downside and we stay below this low, I would re-enter to the downside. That was just a little more risk than I wanted to put on, putting the stop there. So this red dotted line, horizontal line, is the consequent encroachment of this 5-minute fair value gap. Dang. So looks like we came up and traded right to the top, which is a little volume imbalance. That's where we put our stop. If we had our stop just 1 tick over, because like that is permissible, just to the top of that volume imbalance. So if we had our stop 1 tick higher, we actually wouldn't be stopped out now. We have the higher dollar. Okay. So let's wait and see if we can catch a silver bullet to the downside and kind of make up this loss. As long as we, so I think price action is still printing bearish as long as we're below this swing high. We came up into a retracement. If you notice on the 5-minute, what it really did on the 5-minute was that was an immediate rebalance, it looks like. So, or maybe not immediate, but it came up and rebalanced that. So this was a 5-minute fair value gap. Came up just to the bottom of that. And now the dollar is really pumping higher. Dollar's pumping higher. Now we're starting to turn over. We'll look for another entry to the downside. We can take 2 trades each session. So we have one more left. So if you look on the 5 minute, this candle, the low is 44.9775 on this 5 minute candle that just printed. The high is 44.9775. So it came up just perfectly to the bottom of that candle. And the dollar's ripping higher now. Okay. We'll look for a re-entry. We don't want to see it go close above this swing high. But the dollar is really going up now. NASDAQ structure, similar. So you can see now the dollar is on its way to some higher time frame swing highs. I want to see how price behaves if we peak above these. I would expect it to start getting heavy.